while it was nowhere near the result we wanted, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure seeing fans back in. Um, and as well, obviously, it was free of charge. It was just the ticket ballot. So that's a really classy thing of Burnley to do. Um, Obviously, the teams like Tottenham, they've gone the total opposite way and had fans pay even more. I think in that case, and I do want to quickly talk about this, is that obviously Tottenham ended up losing today against Aston Villa at their ground with fans that they've told to pay even more money than they usually would. That's appalling. That is absolutely appalling, especially when Tottenham's players didn't really give much. Um, I think a similar thing can be said today about Burnley, except the ticket was free of charge, which really to me is the only positive that could possibly come from being a fan of the game today. Um, yeah, as I say, such a disappointing result. Um, probably didn't deserve it. If I'm entirely honest, I don't think 3-0 reflected our performance entirely. In some aspects, it certainly did. But that's what this video is for. That's what we'll be reflecting on. Yeah, it was. I was really hoping to be able to hear a roar today after we'd scored. Perhaps it's unrealistic for me to expect us to have scored today. But I mean, this is your best chance you're going to get against Liverpool. It's pretty weak defence compared to what they obviously have at their disposal when gifted with no injuries. I thought really their only real weak link in the defence was Reece Williams, but even he was good defensively today. He won plenty of headers. He just didn't look entirely experienced, but that's what you're going to get with a young player, isn't it? Though, having said that, I think we let ourselves down, particularly in the second half. I thought today's game was a real game of two halves. Like the very definition of it. The first half, I thought we looked really good, so organised, so just on it. We looked alive for the majority of the first half. Obviously, Liverpool had their moments, but we looked really good. And I thought, you know what? After that Leeds performance, it's nice to see we have a bit of bottle back now. It's nice to see that we're really giving something today. We gave something for 45 minutes, conceded in the first 45, and then it never really got any better from there in the second half. Whether or not that second half, whether or not the sort of lackluster second half performance came from conceding that goal, if that is the case, if the poor second half has come from conceding that goal, I'm worried for our future in the Premier League. If that's something that we're going to make a habit of, we can't. We don't stay up if we don't have something about us that can take us further after going down. Particularly late this season, we've not been able to do that, and it's weird. It is very odd. Because that's the one thing you sort of expect from Burnley. You expect that bit of grit and determination. Because that, realistically, this team is not gifted. This team is not a Premier League side. It's just a team of very hard-working, determined players who want to take on the challenge. And recently, they haven't been taking on the challenge the way they should be. Obviously, they've been winning. They've put in good performances, but when you go down and you can't come back up, or when you go up and then the opposition comes back up as well, I think there's a thing to be said about your mindset there. Personally, yeah, it's a tough one to take. I think because I was going into today's game thinking, you know what, we've got fans in. We're just off the back of a really bad loss against Leeds, we've got a lot to do today. We've got a lot to prove. We've got a lot of reason to really push it. First half we did it, and I think I don't know what happened. I've got no idea what happened, but obviously, as I've said prior to this many times, second half we just dropped off, and it was as if the first half never happened. It was as if we never created that structure of sort of rigidness. We just lost it second half. Um, there were moments of imagination and spark, but moments of imagination and spark generally aren't going to win you games. You need a consistent performance for the full 90, and we just didn't give that. So anyway, onto the individual player performances then, I suppose. Nick Pope obviously still out, and instead of Bailey Peacock Farrell this time round, Sean Dyche opted for Will Norris. I was really, really underwhelmed, really disappointed by his performance today. I think, obviously, the first goal, I'm sure everyone will look at that and think, that is appalling. Like, you just saved them. He's gone down with his foot. Whether or not he goes down with his hands or his feet, I think he saves it, but in this scenario, he hasn't. From what I can understand, from my memory right now, is that perhaps his legs were too sort of diagonal down rather than almost horizontal up. And when the horizontal up, obviously there's no real place for the ball to go other than back out. Whereas when they're diagonal down, in like this sort of shape, the ball is just going to go right up your leg. I think Pope would have saved that with his leg. I don't think he would have used his hands. Bailey probably would have used his hands, I would have thought. And I think both of them would have saved that in each scenario. I just think, obviously, Will Norris has not had any game time for a long time since MK Dons. And then before that, last time he played was with Wolves. He hasn't had any game time. Fair enough. But I'm not sure that can really excuse you. Nick Pope didn't have any game time when he first played for us against Crystal Palace. Didn't have any game time. Obviously, he had that level of talent, and he still has that level of talent that you kind of just have or you don't have. But that first game, he was absolutely immense, and he proved his worth big time. He was absolutely brilliant. Will Norris come into the game today, and I think he's just got on his mind, I'm here to fill in until Pope's back or until Bailey plays. And it's if that is the mindset, which you can't be sure it is the mindset, but if that is the mindset, it's disappointing. You can't be having that mindset. Not in a game like football, not in a sport like football, not in an industry like football. It's not how it works. You play to the best of your ability, no matter what the situation is. And I just don't think Norris really ever did. Obviously, the second goal I think was just a good header from Nat Phillips. And the third one, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain turns in and out a couple times and then just strikes it. I think maybe Will Norris can have his near post a little bit more covered than he did, because particularly from the wide angle, there was a lot of space there to strike at, and I think if he has it a little bit more covered, either the shot just doesn't come off because it might be a bit not sensible to take the strike, or he saves it. Yeah, I just think it's a bit of an uninspiring day for Will Norris, and I don't know. Looking at the recent two performances between Bailey and between Will, Nick Pope's got to be looking at that and thinking, I have got absolutely nothing to worry about with my number one shirt. I've got absolutely nothing to worry about. That's going to be a problem because nothing's pushing him. Nothing's pushing him to really strive to just be an excellent goalkeeper. When Tom Heaton was there, when Joe Hart was there, two England goalkeepers, when they were there was something to fight for because it was around some real keepers. We don't have that now. Billy Mercer is an excellent goalkeeping coach, no doubt about it, but I just think there's some things you just can't do. I don't think you can make Bailey Peacock-Farrell a regular Premier League goalkeeper, and I don't think you can make Will Norris anywhere near that. No matter the situation. I am worried that Pope's gonna see this and just think, I don't have to give everything I've got. Subconsciously, I don't think consciously he'll be thinking that, but subconsciously, will he have that same desire to really push so that no one else can possibly have a chance at that shirt? I don't know. Matt Loughton. Tell you what, I'll probably talk about all of these players between the two halves, because it was a very weird game in that sense. Everyone had a good half and a bad half, and the majority, if not all had a good half first half and a bad half second half. Matt Loughton, I thought first half was absolutely brilliant defensively. He was just so on it. There were so many times where Liverpool was either through on goal or near through on goal. Matt Loughton was there to prevent it from happening. He pressured really well on the right-hand side as well. I thought Mane struggled quite a lot. I think Mane struggled quite a lot too. Sorry about that. I think Mane struggled quite a lot to really get into the game, because I thought Matt Loughton was really on it today. And he just had that spark, particularly in the first half. Second half, I thought in an attacking sense, he looked a little bit more on it. First half, he didn't. Second half, he looked a lot more on it in offensively. Yeah, he did play really well with sort of Josh Brownhill, Jack Cork, and Goodmanson out on the right hand side in the second half. And I thought the right hand side was our main source of sort of energy and creativity for the second half. So yeah, I thought overall Matt Loughton was fine, and he had a good game, and could be in the running for man of the match for me. I don't know though. I'm not sure about it. I don't think he quite did enough to really show me what for. James Tarkowski was good today. A few of his long passes were off in the first half. His second half performance, he looked good. He looked he looked comfortable on the ball. He looked good with his feet in particular, which I'm sure is something he's really trying to push right now. Obviously, the Euros are coming up in the 26-man squad. This is his best chance he's going to get. No doubt about that. So he looked good. Defensively, he was pretty sound as well. He was good in the air, particularly against a sort of big Liverpool defence. So yeah, he was good. He was good defensively, and I think particularly in the second half, he looked very confident, composed on the ball, and it's a good thing to see, because I really want to see Tarks in England squad. I really want to see him in England squad because he deserves it. He is one of England's best centre backs. There's no doubt about it. But you know, we'll see. We'll see. I do hope he gets in. Next player, Ben Mee. All right, Ben Mee. I'm going to give him a man of the match, and I think it's just primarily for the first half. Defensively, first half, the man was on fire. Like, Mo Salah pocketed. And I will say, the majority of games that we played against Liverpool, and Salah's been there, Ben Mee just pocketed Salah. And it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous to watch. Obviously, Liverpool have a lot more players other than just Salah who can score goals. But even when it was down to the wire and Salah was just one-on-one, no one else was about, somehow Ben Mee gets back into position and blocks it, tackles it. He won a lot of headers today. He had a chance on goal that was just cleared off the line. He had a real captain's performance, real role model performance. Even second half, I don't think he looked as good defensively, because obviously, you know, if you concede 2 goals second half, you're always going to not look as good second half. I think really the main thing with the second goal is that maybe you can be challenging Nat Phillips a little bit more. But I don't know. I'll let you decide on that one. So yeah, Ben Mee's got my man of the match. if for nothing, only for the first half. Second half, he was good defensively, but first half, I thought he looked elite. I thought he was just excellent. Charlie Taylor, in a similar vein, really did well to pocket Salah today. I don't think he looks quite as perhaps elite as Ben Mee did, but he did his job, and I think that's helped Ben Mee look even better. Offensively, he also looked pretty good today, particularly first half. I think second half, the left-hand side really slowed down, which was a bit of a bummer, really, especially considering the fact that our left-hand side is supposed to be our good side. If a football team can have a good side, it can. It's supposed to be our good side. And first half, I think they proved that, he and Dwight. Second half, not so much. Yeah, as I say, Charlie Taylor did really well defensively throughout the entire game, just as Ben Mee. The left-hand side of defence today was excellent, and I was pleased in that sense, but it was just more offensively second half. They didn't look as imaginative or creative, and a lot of the time it was just Charlie Taylor's here, Dwight McNeil's here, Dwight passes it to Charlie, or Charlie passes it to Dwight, and then they just make the overlapping run, and that's how it goes. They cross the ball in. I think there was one cross in particular that I remember. Charlie Taylor put a peach of a cross in, and there was just no one there. And if someone's there, I'm telling you, it's a goal. It was put in a perfect place, and Wood wanted it right to him, which perhaps keep your head up, cross it there. But you think number 9 gets in that position, and he hadn't in that sense, in that scenario rather. So that's a bit disappointing. But good, very very good cross from Charlie. But I just thought it was really one-dimensional on the left-hand side, which is, I could say, the opposite for on the right-hand side. So yeah, that's a defence done, and goalkeeper. Left midfield, Dwight McNeil. I thought Dwight, first half, I've been saying it, first half, he's looked great. No, Dwight looked even better than great first half. His pressurising today was immense. It was so good. As to be fair, the pressure for the entirety of the first half, for the majority of the midfield, for the majority of the midfield, the pressure was really good. The press was just so perfect. We won the ball so well, so frequently. And I think Dwight was a real driving force in that. In particular, a lot of his crossing today was pretty good, as you expect from Dwight. I say pretty good because we didn't score any goals, but the balls that he put in, they were perfectly fine. And if Liverpool's defence isn't quite as solid, I think maybe a couple more of those crosses turn into assists, or at least big chances. Yeah, and this is something I really want to comment on. Dwight McNeil, this season in particular, has matured so much as an all-round player. Obviously, he's still got his talent in his offensive mind. He gets forward well, he crosses well, he passes well, and he wants to do things. But defensively, he's just looking so good, and it's baffling to me. Like, I look at Goodmanson on the opposite side. He's probably got about 8 or 9 years on Dwight. Goodmanson does not get back nearly as well as Dwight does. Dwight gets back and maintains his solidity, and it's really impressive for a young left winger, left midfielder, for a young left midfielder to have that in his in his sort of arsenal. It's so impressive, and I think he had a really good game today. Second half he dropped off, as did everyone, almost everyone. But he had a good game. He had a good game. Didn't have a Dwight McNeil game, but he had a good game, and I think that's a good compliment considering his recent performances. He's looked a lot more lethargic recently, but today he looked good. He looked on it. Midfield, we had 3 in the midfield today. It confused me a little bit because Sky Sports was saying it was a 4-3-3, and I would have assumed it was going to be a 4-5-1, but I still have no idea what the what the lineup was. Not what the lineup was. What the formation was today. But that's fine. That's not part of the conversation. Ashley Westwood midfield. I thought he was good. I thought he was solid. I thought he was Mr. Consistent. Once again, Ashley Westwood just is Mr. Consistent. Didn't necessarily have an amazing game, but didn't have a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. His pressing today was really good. I can say that for the rest of the midfield, bar Jack Cork, I think. Ashley Westwood was really good and got on it. Won a lot of second balls, which is something that we failed to do against Leeds. We won a lot of second balls, particularly in the midfield area, particularly with Ashley Westwood. And Ashley Westwood sort of picked up the midfield, I felt, to allow it to pivot around him and work with more sort of drive and energy. Second half, I don't think that same energy was quite there, but I don't think that was helped by everyone else not having the same energy. So yeah, good game, Mr. Consistent. Well done, Ashley, but not man of the match. Obviously, Ben Mee's man of the match. I love Ben Mee. He's my man of the match. Jack Cork in the centre. I thought he was our only real player who was just not on it for the entirety of the game. He looked quite slow, looked lethargic. He looked... Oh, it's going to pain me to say this. He looked older. It's disappointing because we know he has that experience under his belt, and we know that he is a class player. But I just think today he just didn't. He didn't look ready for it, which I'm not sure you can entirely expect from an older player in a sort of pressuring tactic, which is what Deitch wanted to do today. I just don't think he was quite on it. Had the ball at his feet quite a few times, and I think he slowed up play quite a lot. It's disappointing. I don't want to say these bad things about him, but he just didn't really do much else, which is it's upsetting for me because I like Cork and I want him to do well because I think he is a good player, but he's just not been on it recently. And not to finish up the midfield, to almost finish up the midfield because we only have one striker. Josh Brownhill was playing a sort of number 10, just behind a striker role. We saw that he did, I think it was against Man City. Was it against Man City that he did that? I could be wrong. Whoever it was, he's played this role before and he looked good at it. I thought first half, his pressuring, his pressing, I still don't really know the word. His pressing was the epitome, I think, today. That was really what epitomised our midfield today. Josh Brownhill first half. He was on it, just as Ashley Westwood was on the second balls and on the pressuring. He was on it constantly, and he was always working in conjunction with Wood. And he looked creative. He looked ready. He didn't look lethargic, which is, I think, the opposite of how you can explain his second half performance. And it was really pleasing to see it because obviously we haven't been seeing Josh Brownhill looking good recently because he's just been wasted on the wing. I'm still not sure if this is his position because there were a few slip-ups and sometimes I think he looks a little bit out of his depth and he looks maybe sometimes too sort of panicky, uncomposed. But on other occasions, he looks really composed. He doesn't look panicky at all. He looks prepared. He looks happy to be in that position and he had a couple strikes today. Nothing really came off. First half, I thought he was absolutely excellent. Second half, I think the opposite can probably be said. He looked pretty lethargic. He almost looked a little bit tired. I saw him walking quite a lot, which is not something I want to see. And I can imagine as a Burnley fan on the match today, watching at Turf Moor for the first time in over a year, seeing players walk, I would be very disappointed with. Whether or not the tickets are free, I think is regardless. I just wanted to see a little bit extra because I think if the rest of the team give that little bit extra, which is what I'm expecting them to do against Sheffield next game, because it's the last game, they've got nothing to lose. If you get injured, you'll be back by next season anyway. It's fine, you know. I just wish he'd have really pushed it for the rest of the game, but no one else did, so I suppose you can't really expect Josh to push it. And Goodmanson, I love Goodmanson. I think he's class, but I just don't think he. I think he was the worst right-sided player today. Similar to recent games when he's been playing, he he performs more as the pivot to the right hand side rather than the thing that's pivoting. Um, a lot of Matt Loughton's crosses came from a Goodmanson pass, just a direct pass from Goodmanson. A lot of his crosses didn't really come off entirely. Um, he made one run down the centre that I think he could have had a chance with, but obviously Wood took it. I'll talk about that strike because I think that's a big moment in the game. I just didn't think Goodmanson quite took the game on today. He was fine. He didn't do anything wrong. But I want to see a bit of risk. I don't want to see pardon me. I don't want to see you tiptoeing around possibilities. I want to see possibilities being made reality. I want to see risks. If the risk doesn't come off, it's fine. Because we'll either win it back or we'll defend long enough to not have to worry about it. But I don't know. I don't feel he's showing his creative spark right now, and instead he's just performing as the lighter to Matt Loughton's firework, and even Matt Loughton's firework isn't quite at the standard that we might want it to be. So yeah, I love Goodmanson, but I just don't think he's really showing what he can do right now. Whether he might be tiptoeing around because he's worried about getting injured or whatever, and he wants to keep fit. I understand that. I mean, if that is the case, all the best to him. But I think we're going to struggle with a right midfielder who doesn't really want to put himself into the game entirely. And penultimate player, we only had one substitution, obviously. Penultimate player, Chris Wood. I thought his hold-up play today was absolutely brilliant, particularly against a very big Liverpool defence. Just generally tall and not even stocky, but just tall and lanky. But they use their weight well. But as does Wood. Wood uses his weight excellently. He's not a particularly tall fella. He's tall, but he's not particularly tall. His hold-up play was brilliant. And I just think, given Vidra for the majority of the game, for that first half, given Vidra, I think maybe his hold-up play is rewarded, either with a goal or an assist or a pre-assist or what have you. I think it is rewarded because Wood's holding the play for nothing to happen around him. It's more just because like the amount of times I saw the over the top through ball come down. Obviously with Liverpool's high line, it's just what teams do now. They just put it over the top. Chris Wood got there constantly. He was always, well, maybe not always, but the majority of the time, he was the first man to it. The problem was that no one else was there with him until about 3 seconds later. By that time, Liverpool's defence is organised and ready to defend. There's no point. The big thing that I do want to talk about is that strike that came over the top. I think it was either from Westwood or from Loughton. I can't quite remember. Could have been from anyone with brown hair. I don't know. But the ball came over. Obviously, he's waited for it and he's taken a strike on. He's just missed. I think Chris Wood, with his current confidence right now, Chris Wood should be scoring that. Is it an easy chance? No, not at all. It's not an easy chance to take on, and probably not one that you should be expecting someone to score. But with his current confidence, you just think, mate, that's going top bins. No question about it. I'm hoping that's not going to stunt his confidence. If it does, that's disappointing. I'm hoping it's not going to, though, because I still want Wood to get another goal. At least one more against Sheffield. Or a hat-trick. I'd like him to get a hat-trick in an ideal world. Come on, please. And obviously the final player is Matej Vidra. Came on for about 20 minutes. Didn't really have much chance to do anything. Though, I will say, second half when he came on, there was maybe like 5 to 7 minutes worth of excitement, something happening. And his overall aura, his I want this ball now. That sort of aura is what I think we needed second half, and it was a good bit of injection. But I just think because no one else was on it quite like Vidra was, it never really came off. It just came off as more a bit frivolous, really, a bit silly, because you're the only one doing this, and it's not matching the sort of the tone of the rest of the team. But it's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see Vidra come on and do what Vidra does. I just don't think everyone else was quite up to it the same way Vidra was, and it's disappointing. And I think it's unfair that maybe not unfair, but I think it's unfortunate that Vidra wasn't given another start today because he's been good. He's been one of our best players, if not our best player, in a consistent fashion for the past four or five games. I'd probably say he's been a key factor in a lot of goals we've been scoring and a lot of chances we've been creating. And I think it's it's unfortunate, but I understand. Dyche likes to pack his midfield against the bigger teams like Liverpool and City. He likes to pack his midfield so that their midfield is more stunted than they otherwise would be. I understand it. I just personally think it's unfortunate for him. But yeah, that's the end of this analysis. Thank you very, very, very much for watching. If you have any thoughts or comments that you'd like to go for, I had a lot last time. I think every single one of them were from Leeds fans. He made sure I knew that Meslier was the future French number one and what have you. And it was a pleasure. It was genuine, as much as a lot of it was just insults towards me. It was a pleasure learning because I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. So it's nice that people can inform me that I don't know everything, and help me understand everything to an extent, But yeah, thank you very much. On to Sheffield for the last game of the season. It's going to be a real emotional one, I'm sure of it. And then I'll be off YouTube for about 3 or 4 months, which I'm sure you'll be very pleased to hear about. So thank you very much for watching. Go on, you Clarets. And let's just win the next one. Why not? Let's just do it. See you later. Thank you.